The gate
The
agent's
anomaly
voice
is spreading.
crackled through
Initiate the
terminal like
override.
a bad
Understood.
radio
Running the
signal.
protocol.
Do it now. We can't afford
Flight
delays.
2247 to Chicago is delayed indefinitely due to crew shortage. We apologize for the inconvenience. Marcus Webb heard the collective groan of 200 passengers and felt it in his chest. He shifted his 7-year-old daughter Lily from one hip to the other, her small arms tightening around his neck the way they always did when she sensed his tension. In his other hand, he clutched a backpack stuffed with coloring books, juice boxes, and the worn stuffed rabbit she refused to travel without. He had 48 hours to get to Chicago, scatter his mother's ashes at Lake Michigan the way she'd always wanted, and get back before his Monday morning shift at the warehouse. There was no room for indefinitely. He found 2 seats near the window and settled Lily against his side, watching her immediately reach into the backpack for her rabbit. Around them, the terminal buzzed with agitation. Business travelers hammered at laptops. A young couple argued in hushed, urgent tones. A group of college students flooded the customer service line, phones raised, recording their frustration for whoever was watching. Marcus just sat quietly. He'd learned a long time ago that some things couldn't be fought. You waited them out. You kept your kid fed and calm and you waited. What he didn't notice, 3 rows back, was the woman watching him. Catherine Hale had not sat in a commercial terminal in 4 years. Her assistant booked private charters. Her security team vetted departure times. She moved through the world with the kind of frictionless efficiency that serious money eventually buys, and she had forgotten, almost completely, what it felt like to sit in a hard plastic chair and wait for news that might not come. She was here today only because the charter had a mechanical issue and her 9 a.m. board meeting in Chicago could not be missed. So she sat with her carry-on between her feet, her phone pressed to her ear, her jaw tight. CEO of Hale Logistics, Forbes listed, first woman to ring the opening bell at the NYSE 2 years running. She was accustomed to being the most important person in any room. But she was watching the man in the gray hoodie. She watched him pull a juice box from the backpack, shake it gently, and hand it to the little girl without her asking. She watched him smooth the girl's hair back when it fell across her face. She watched him take out a coloring book, open it to a half-finished page of a butterfly, and hand the girl a red crayon even though the butterfly was blue, because he knew, somehow, that the little girl wanted to color it her own way. Catherine had built a company on reading people. She recognized intentional love when she saw it. Then she heard the little girl ask, in that pure, unfiltered way that children ask impossible things, "Daddy, are we gonna make it to the lake?" And she heard the man say, without hesitation, without a single note of doubt in his voice, "Yeah, baby. We're gonna make it." Catherine lowered her phone. She didn't know why she stood up. She didn't plan it. Later she would try to reconstruct the decision and find that there wasn't one. She simply moved, the way she had moved through thousands of split-second calls in her life, on instinct honed until it felt like breathing. She walked to the gate desk, showed her credentials, asked 2 questions and got 2 answers. Then she walked back through the terminal, past her own seat, and stopped in front of the man in the gray hoodie. "Excuse me," she said. He looked up. Tired eyes. Honest face. The kind of face that had been through something and hadn't let it make him hard. "I overheard your daughter," Catherine said. "Are you trying to get to Chicago today?" He shifted, cautious the way people get when a stranger offers something. "Yeah, we are. I have a charter. Mechanical's been cleared, we're wheels up in 90 minutes from the private terminal. I have 8 open seats." She paused. "You're welcome to 2 of them." He stared at her. Why? It was such a simple question. Not suspicious, exactly. Just real. He actually wanted to know. Catherine opened her mouth and found something unexpected waiting there, the truth. "Because you reminded me of something I forgot." He didn't ask her what. He just looked at her for a long moment, then looked down at his daughter, then back up. "I'm Marcus," he said. "Catherine. This is Lily." Lily looked up from her butterfly. "Hi. Do you have a rabbit?" "I don't," Catherine said. "But I've always thought they were very good travelers." Lily considered this with great seriousness and then nodded, apparently satisfied. On the charter, somewhere over Indiana, with Lily asleep across 2 seats with her rabbit tucked under her chin, Marcus told Catherine about his mother. About the way she used to drive them to Lake Michigan every summer when he was a kid, packing sandwiches in a cooler and singing along to the radio with the windows down. About how she'd made him promise, near the end, that he'd take her back there. About how he'd been saving for 2 years to afford the trip, only to have the airline nearly take it from him in a gate announcement. Catherine listened. She didn't check her phone. She didn't pivot the conversation to herself. She just listened, with the kind of full attention that most powerful people have long since traded away. Then Marcus said something that stopped her cold. Before the warehouse, I flew, he said. 10 years. Air Force. C-17s, mostly. 2 tours. Catherine turned to look at him fully. You're a pilot. Was. He smiled at the word, the way people smile at things that are both painful and proud. My call sign was Shepherd. Because I always brought everybody home. Catherine sat with that for a moment. Shepherd. A man who made sure no one got left behind. Sitting in a commercial terminal, unable to afford a flight to scatter his mother's ashes, because the country he'd served had handed him a discharge and a handshake and sent him back into a civilian world that didn't have a place marked for him. She looked out the window at the flat white landscape of clouds below and felt something move in her that she hadn't felt in a very long time. Not pity. Something harder and cleaner than that. Purpose. They landed at Midway. Catherine's car was waiting on the tarmac. She offered to have her driver take them wherever they needed to go. Marcus thanked her and said they'd be all right. She believed him. But before he lifted Lily from the seat, still half asleep and clutching her rabbit, Catherine handed him a business card. I run a logistics company, she said. We operate a fleet of 32 aircraft. I've been trying to find the right director of flight operations for 8 months. She held his gaze. I'd like to set up a meeting when you're back. He looked at the card. Then at her. You don't even know if I can still fly. You told me your call sign was Shepherd, she said. You always brought everybody home. She tilted her head slightly. I'd say that's exactly the kind of pilot I want running my operation. Lily tugged at his sleeve. Daddy. The lake. He pocketed the card. Picked up his daughter. Picked up the backpack with the coloring books and the juice boxes and the worn stuffed rabbit. Thank you, he said. Thank you, Catherine said. And she meant it in a way she hadn't expected to mean anything today. She watched them walk across the tarmac in the thin winter light, a father and his daughter, carrying something precious toward the water, and she thought about how close it had come to not happening. One announcement. One delay. One woman who almost stayed in her seat. She made a note to herself, the kind she used to make in cockpits. Check all instruments before assuming you know where you are. She had been flying blind for years. She hadn't known it until a little girl asked about a lake, and a tired man said, without flinching, that they were going to make it. They were.